The final warning. The Galactic Council chamber on Tyrus Prime was a cathedral of arrogance. Polished obsidian walls, spires reaching into the clouds, and banners of empires that had endured for millennia. At its center, on a throne of black steel, sat Empress Zereth of the Tyrassian Empire, her crimson eyes narrowing as the Terran Union's protest was read aloud. "A demand for reparations," she said, her voice laced with amusement. "And surrender of our fleets?" The Empress's laughter rang through the chamber, echoed by the nobles and military officers lining the walls. "These humans have barely crawled from their cradle, and they dare speak to the rulers of the galaxy?" The laughter grew louder when news feeds replayed the destruction of Colony Sigma V. On every screen, the Tyrassian fleet bombardment turned cities into ash clouds. 2.3 million human lives, erased in 3 hours. For the Council, it was a display of power. For humanity, it was the point of no return. Far from the capital, in orbit above Earth, the orbital fortress Vigilance hummed with readiness. In its war room, President Amina Duarte stood before the galaxy's media feeds, her posture a blade drawn from its sheath. Her voice was steady, every word measured and sharpened for the billions watching. "To the Tyrassian Empire, this is humanity's final warning. You will surrender, answer for your crimes, and dismantle your fleets, or we will burn your empire to ash. We do not stop, not until justice is done." Her image was transmitted through quantum link relays to every world, every station, every ship within 1,000 light years. The message reached even the deep core palaces of alien monarchs who had never once considered humanity a threat. The reactions came instantly. Tyrassian news anchors mocked the infant species for its bravado. Analysts from the Ketheri hierarchy predicted the war would last no more than a month before Earth was reduced to cinders. Yet in the shadowed backrooms of neutral powers, some diplomats exchanged uneasy glances. Humans had won wars before that they had no business winning. Inside Vigilance, the joint human fleet convened. Admiral Kian Rourke's voice cut through the tension. "Operation Ash Storm is authorized. All fleets mobilize. All reserves deployed. This is total war." No one in the chamber doubted the cost. The Tyrassian Empire had more ships, more worlds, more centuries of war experience. But humans had something else, an unwillingness to stop once blood had been drawn. 3 days later, in the shadow of a dying red star at the edge of Tyrassian space, the destroyer HSS Stormlance intercepted a Tyrassian convoy. The enemy's comms barked insults and orders to stand down. The Stormlance captain gave no reply. At 14:03 Terran Standard Time, 6 tungsten penetrators dropped from orbit at hypersonic velocity. In less than 3 minutes, the convoy's escorts were shattered, cargo ships vaporized, wreckage drifting silently into the void. First blood had been claimed. The galaxy had heard humanity's warning. Now, they would see if the words were backed by fire. Fire at the Empire's gate. The first strike on the convoy had been a spark. Humanity intended to turn it into an inferno. From the war room aboard the Vigilance, Admiral Kian Rourke's orders spread across encrypted comms. "We move fast, we hit hard, and we leave nothing standing. We don't give them time to breathe." Humanity's war doctrine was unlike anything the Tyrassian admirals had faced in centuries. Where other empires sought to capture territory for taxation and control, humans fought to erase the enemy's ability to resist. Shipyards, fuel depots, communications arrays. Nothing of strategic value was spared. The first true test came at Zarn, a fortress world guarding one of the Empire's primary border crossings. Its planetary shield hummed with confidence, and its surface bristled with anti-orbital batteries. The Tyrassian commander was so certain of victory that he broadcast the human fleet's approach live to the core worlds. He expected a traditional siege. What he got was silence, followed by the sudden reentry of 20 human-strike ships above the upper atmosphere. From their bays dropped slender rods of tungsten, each as long as a city bus. Traveling at Mach 30, they struck with the force of small nuclear detonations. No explosives needed. The shield shattered, fortress bunkers crumpled, and the broadcast cut to static in less than 2 minutes. The galaxy watched, stunned. Reports began trickling in. Human fleets were hitting deep space refueling stations, private shipyards, and communication hubs. Tyrassian logistics officers found their carefully balanced supply chains shredded in days. Captain Mara Vance of the HSS Relentless led a daring raid into the Vorkan system, so deep inside Tyrassian territory that Imperial propaganda claimed humans could never reach it. Vorkan was the beating heart of the Empire's ship production, its orbital dry docks the size of small moons. Mara's fleet emerged from a stealth jump barely 20,000 kilometers from the docks. Her Marines didn't bother with boarding actions. They planted antimatter demolition charges, set the timers for 3 minutes, and jumped out. The explosions lit the void like twin suns. 40% of the Empire's active shipbuilding capacity was gone overnight. In the Imperial Palace, Empress Ziritha's temper turned volcanic. "Strike at their heart," she ordered. "Bring the Planet Cracker fleet to Earth." The Planet Crackers, monstrous capital ships equipped with superluminal siege cannons, had leveled civilizations in weeks. They were the Empire's answer to rebellion. But Earth's intelligence networks were already listening. The intercepted orders reached President Duarte's desk before the Tyrassian fleet even left orbit. She didn't flinch. "Let them come," she told Admiral Rourke. "We'll show them what happens when they bring fire to our home." Ashstorm unleashed. The Tyrassian planet crackers tore through hyperspace like predators scenting blood. Their prows glowed with the energy of siege cannons capable of vaporizing continents. To the galaxy's watching eyes, Earth was doomed. But when the fleet emerged at the Sol perimeter, they found no unguarded world. Waiting for them was the Titan defense grid, a ring of AI-guided railgun satellites, orbital laser platforms, and drone swarms, all hidden until now. The first planet cracker barely cleared its re-entry corridor before a railgun slug the size of a subway car punched through its main reactor. The ship vanished in a blossom of plasma, scattering molten debris across the void. The Tyrassian formation faltered, giving the grid's lasers time to carve through 2 more. Admiral Rourke's voice cut through the comms, cold and precise. "Target their flagships. Leave none intact." Human carrier groups surged forward, unleashing waves of strike craft armed with antimatter torpedoes. The Tyrassians fought back savagely, but the trap was already sprung. Within hours, the Planet Cracker fleet was reduced to drifting hulks and fire. The message was clear: Earth would not be cracked. Rourke didn't waste time. Before the wreckage had cooled, the counterstrike began. Over 3,000 Terran warships jumped to pre-calculated coordinates across the Empire's midcore. The strategy was brutal. Hit every industrial hub, every military supply world, every hyperspace relay in a single coordinated offensive. On Raxtor, planetary shield generators fell under pinpoint orbital bombardment. Human Marines dropped into the capital, dismantling orbital defenses and leaving Tyrassian garrisons without hope. On Varun, spaceports were slagged, stranding hundreds of enemy warships without fuel. The human fleets didn't linger for occupation. They moved like a wildfire, leaving only ash behind. In neutral sectors, alien diplomats began to plead with President Duarte to accept an armistice. The Tyrassian Empire, they argued, was ready to sue for peace. Surely that was enough. Duarte's reply was blunt, her eyes hard as steel. "They'll rise again if we leave them standing. We finish it now." The turning point came at Yakal Nexus, the Empire's largest hyperspace hub, a massive artificial ring world through which 40% of their core traffic flowed. The Tyrassians had fortified it with fleets, minefields, and layered shield arrays. The Terran assault lasted only 6 hours. Drone swarms overloaded the mines, railgun fire collapsed the shields, and boarding Marines seized the command cores before the defenders could scuttle the station. When the humans raised their flag over Yakal Nexus, the galaxy understood. This war was no longer about defense. It was about erasure. In the palace on Tyrus Prime, Empress Zirith ordered her remaining fleets to retreat to the homeworld. She would gather every last ship for the Empire's final stand. For Admiral Rourke and the Terran Union, the next step was obvious. The war would end where it began, at the Empire's throne. Until its ash, the final battle was set against the backdrop of Tyrus Prime, the ancient capital world of the Tyrassian Empire. Its swirling violet skies and towering black steel spires had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Now, they would witness the fall of the oldest empire in the galaxy. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm unleashed, 3,500 warships arrayed in battle formation, their hulls gleaming coldly under distant starlight. Opposing them was the Imperial Grand Armada, 4,000 ships bristling with weapons and centuries of battle-hardened crews. Admiral Kian Rourke stood on the bridge of the HSS Vigilance, eyes locked on the swirling mass of enemy vessels. His voice was steady but charged with the weight of destiny. This is the endgame. Break their formation, shatter their command. No mercy. The battle began with a barrage of gravity well projectors, devices designed to manipulate space-time and disrupt hyperspace jumps. Human ships created artificial gravity pockets, forcing Tyrassian warships to exit hyperspace in chaotic positions, breaking their tight formation. The Tyrassian fleet struggled to regroup as torrents of railgun slugs and antimatter torpedoes tore through their ranks. Fireballs blossomed where capital ships exploded, debris clouds spreading like deadly storms. Meanwhile, ground forces descended on Tyrus Prime. Human marines deployed from orbital drop pods, flooding into the capital city streets. Fighting turned brutal in close quarters. Black steel corridors echoed with the clash of blades and gunfire. Admiral Rourke monitored the siege from orbit, refusing to allow any escape shuttles. The Empress's royal family was trapped, no quarter given. On the palace's communication channel, Empress Zirith broadcast a final defiant speech. "We are the Tyrassians. We are eternal. Your flames will only forge our rebirth." President Amina Duarte responded with cold resolve. "Your reign ends here. The galaxy will be free of your chains." Orbital bombardments intensified. Plasma lances and missile salvos turned the Imperial Palace into a burning ruin. The capital's once mighty defense grids faltered and failed. As the last Tyrassian command ships fell, the Tyrassian flag was lowered for the first time in 10,000 years. Silence hung over the planet. The Galactic Council, once deaf to Earth's warnings, now reconvened in fear and awe. Smaller empires and independent worlds sent envoys to humanity, pledging peace and alliance. Admiral Rourke addressed the victorious fleet over comms. "They thought our warning was empty. They thought our threats were bluster. Humanity does not bluff. When we give a final warning, we see it through. Until its ash." The galaxy changed that day. The Tyrassian Empire was no more. Humanity had not just survived, it had conquered the impossible. And in the ashes of the old empire, a new order began to rise. One where humanity's relentless will shape the stars themselves.